Like many other states, Michigan is still haunted by the ghost of elections past. Trump's big lie and his even bigger ego have fundamentally deteriorated the integrity of America's democracy and electoral system. Republican lawmakers in many states have spent the past 2 years trying, and in some states succeeding, in passing laws and making changes that restrict voting rights. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis has created a so-called election task force to tackle election fraud. But as seen in recently released footage by the Tampa Police Department, plenty of people, including law enforcement, are perplexed by what Governor DeSantis is trying to do.
So, ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest.
For what?
From voter fraud.
Good, how are you, sir?
Right?
Boss, how's it going?
Oh my God, hold on.
Wait.
Let me tell my husband.
We're telling him, he's right here.
Right here. So if you can put your hands behind your back, please.
Oh my God. Voter fraud, I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but you do have a warrant. That's what it's for. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened with that, but you do have a warrant. Apparently, I guess you have a warrant?
For what?
I'm not sure.
For voter stuff, man.
For voters.
It's what it is. I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
What's essentially happening across the country right now is Republicans continue to peddle this big lie and push through voter restriction laws and create an uproar over scattered accusations of voter fraud that would have had no effect on the outcome of the election is a grand-scale effort to intimidate and discourage voters, many of whom already face unjust hardships exercising their constitutional right to vote. And keep this in mind. According to recent reports by the New York Times and the Washington Post, the majority of Republicans on the ballot this year are, in fact, election deniers. Some of them will be in charge of administering and certifying the results of the 2024 presidential election. Here in Michigan, for instance, the Republican candidate for Attorney General, Matthew DePerno, is under criminal investigation for allegedly taking part in a scheme to seize and tamper voting machines. Now he's the Republican Party's candidate to be Michigan's top law enforcement official. I am joined now by Michigan's current Attorney General, Dana Nessel. She is the Democratic nominee running for re-election against Matthew DePerno this year. She's also a former criminal prosecutor and a civil rights attorney. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thanks for being out here in Detroit.
It's a pleasure to be here. Despite my affinity for Michigan, you and I have talked a lot in the last couple of years about this fundamental issue of democracy being on the ballot. When I spoke to Michiganders yesterday, they shared the view. Whether or not abortion was their number one concern or inflation was their number one concern, they all realized that whatever your number one concern is becomes secondary if you're losing democracy fundamentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I know that people are concerned about gas prices and inflation, and those are legitimate concerns. But the fact of the matter is that inflation will go up and down during the course of our lifetimes. But once you lose the fundamental right to vote, once you lose the right to have autonomy over your own body, it's likely that it's never coming back. And I think people have to really keep their focus on these fundamental rights and to know that the people that are running as Republicans for these critical offices are so extreme that, you know, you literally have one party that's trying to preserve democracy and the other that's trying to destroy it. And it's as simple as that.
How does the message resonate when you're out there talking to people, because you're on the campaign trail at the moment? What are they saying to you? Are they registering that this fundamental fight for democracy is the biggest deal? Or are they asking you about a lot of other things? This is Michigan. Like any other state, it's got local issues that are of concern to people. How do you balance the messaging on this?
I think the problem is people are so inundated with information all the time that it's easy to lose focus. And plus, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. So people aren't necessarily hearing the truth all the time. And I think that's, frankly, part of the strategy of the Republican Party, and it has been for a long time, is to, you know, take people's attention and place it elsewhere and really focus it on wedge issues that really don't impact people's everyday lives and to distract them. But once people know, once people hear what this election is really about, and that we could honestly lose our democracy if we have these election deniers who believe that their only reason for running for office, honestly, is to manipulate elections so that in 2024, instead of it having be the will of the voters that is implemented in terms of the choice for presidency or for any other races, It'll be whoever those particular Republicans are in office choose. And most likely it's going to be a resident from the state of Florida, somebody who doesn't live in Michigan at all.
So let's talk about abortion, because while it's an issue to a lot of Americans, and they'll be voting for candidates who either, who support abortion rights if they're Democrats, in Michigan, the whole country is going to be looking at this because you've got a positive abortion question on the ballot, Proposal 3, which would enshrine the right to an abortion. I've spoken to a lot of people in this. There are a number of district attorneys in this state who said they will not enforce that 1931 abortion ban that was in effect for some time after Roe fell. But they all pointed me to you. They said, but if if Dana Nessel loses this election, what I do in Wayne County won't be as effective.
Yeah, that's right. The Attorney General in the state of Michigan has widespread criminal authority. I can prosecute cases in all 83 counties of this state. And what that means is if I lose and if my opponent Matthew DePerno wins, he has said that he'd like to prosecute women, doctors, nurses in all instances. And when I say all instances, I mean even when the health of the mother is at jeopardy, even when the woman may die during the course of pregnancy or childbirth. I mean, that is incredibly extreme, but once you are the top law enforcement official in the state of Michigan, and you can go into any doctor's office in the state, and you can literally issue subpoenas and do search warrants and find out what people's medical records say, you can prosecute anyone, and all bets are off. And even if this ballot proposal were to pass, and I very much hope that it will, somebody's got to defend it in court.
Right.
It's going to be challenged, and guess who has to defend it? The Michigan Attorney General.
Right, because the Attorney General can say, I'm not defending it. They can just choose not to take action.
That's right.
If they don't believe in it. So with the extreme positions on abortion and the extreme positions on election denial, are you puzzled that there are still so many people who will support your Republican opponent, the governor's Republican opponent, the Secretary of State's Republican opponent? Because they're all being very clear on this. You're all three are running against people who have staked out extreme positions, according to two Republicans I spoke to yesterday on my panel, extreme even by Republican standards.
Yeah, I mean, I am perplexed. These races are incredibly close. We just saw, some polling come out, and the governor and I are within a few points. The secretary is a little bit higher than that, but still, I mean, it's shocking to me with how these Republicans are so radical and so dangerous to the residents of our state. I can't believe how many people are even considering voting for them. I think as they obtain more information about it, hopefully that won't be the case. But I mean, people should know there is a distinct difference between the candidates in these races. So anybody who says, oh, there's no difference between the Democrats and Republicans, they couldn't possibly be more wrong. That couldn't possibly be further from the truth. There is such a profound difference. And there will be a difference in the lives of each and every person in our state in the event that these very radical and dangerous individuals actually take over these incredibly important constitutional offices in our state.
We're so happy that you joined us this morning. We appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be back in Michigan. But boy, you got some serious issues coming up that need to be sorted out in the next 17 days.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being with us again. Dana Nessel is the Attorney General of Michigan.